All right, so MetaConnect 2024 is officially a wrap. And, well, let me just say the hype was definitely real this year.
Yeah, no kidding. It was a lot to process.
It really was, honestly. We're talking a mountain of announcements, product reveals, demos, the whole shebang.
Hmm.
Luckily, we've been digging through it all, reading all the articles from The Verge.
All the in-depth coverage.
Exactly. So you
Yeah.
don't have to wade through it all yourself. And trust me, you'd be drowning in it.
You wouldn't believe some of this stuff.
No, for real. So let's jump right into the deep dive, shall we? What were your first impressions? What really stood out to you from the event?
Honestly, one thing that really struck me was Zuckerberg's whole pitch about augmented reality being like the actual future of tech. Like he's really all in on this vision.
Yeah, it was almost like he was trying to will it into existence, right?
Totally. And these AR glasses, the Orion ones, those seem to be at the heart of it all.
Okay, so speaking of Orion, let's talk about those glasses for a second, because Zuckerberg really seemed to think they were some kind of game changer.
Right. He basically said they're the most advanced AR glasses the world has ever seen, which, is a bold claim.
It's a pretty bold claim, especially coming from a guy who wants us all to, live in the metaverse one day.
Exactly. But to be fair, he really seems convinced that these glasses, which remember can basically overlay digital stuff onto the real world, could actually replace our smartphones eventually.
Replace our phones? Whoa, hold on a second. I mean, is that even realistic? What makes these glasses so special that they could actually make our phones obsolete?
Well, for starters, they're supposed to have all the same capabilities as your smartphone, but like hands-free, and it's supposed to be seamlessly integrated into your actual field of vision. So think navigation, communication, even social media, all like displayed right there in front of your eyes.
Okay, I'll admit that does sound pretty futuristic, but I can't help but be skeptical. I mean, haven't we seen this all before? Remember Google Glass?
Right, and that didn't exactly set the world on fire.
Exactly. So how do we know this isn't just another cool concept that's going to end up, gathering dust in our drawers a year from now?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, it's hard to say for sure, but here's where it gets really interesting. The Verge's own Niloy Patel, he actually got to try on a prototype of the Orion glasses.
Wait, seriously, he got some hands-on time with them. What did he think?
Yeah, he wrote a whole article about it actually called Hands-On with Orion, that his first pair of AR glasses. Apparently, the experience was surprisingly intuitive. He was able to interact with, like, virtual objects, control apps, with just hand gestures. It seems like Meta's actually made some pretty serious strides in AR tech.
Interesting. So maybe there's more to it than just hype this time. But even if the technology is there, could you actually see yourself, wearing these glasses every day?
That's a good question, and I think it depends. I mean, it's one thing for the technology to exist, but it's another thing entirely for people to actually adopt it on a mass scale.
Yeah, it's like, will it actually catch on?
Exactly. Because let's be real, sometimes even the coolest tech just doesn't stick the landing.
True that. All right, so moving on from AR, because Meta had a whole lot more to show off than just some fancy glasses. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or maybe the llama in the metaverse. All the AI announcements.
Oh yeah, the AI stuff was definitely front and center at MetaConnect, and I have to say it was a little bit of a wild ride.
To say the least. We saw everything from AI-powered chatbots voiced by celebrities to, AI generating images in your feeds, and some of it was even a little unnerving.
Totally. I think they were going for like a wow factor,
Yeah.
but they might have tipped over into the uncanny valley a few times.
Yeah, remember that demo with the AI Aquafina? It was both impressive and a little creepy at the same time.
Totally. And then there was that whole thing with the AI generated images where they showed how you could basically create images with your own likeness.
Okay, that's where I draw the line. It's cool, but also a little too Black Mirror for my liking.
Right. It definitely raises some questions about like privacy and consent.
And what about copyright? Who owns the rights to those AI-generated images?
Exactly. There are definitely a lot of ethical and legal questions that come along with this technology.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't deny that it's pretty groundbreaking stuff.
No, for sure. It's both exciting and a little terrifying at the same time. Speaking of exciting and terrifying, we have to talk about the metaverse.
Ah, yes, the M word. Remember that.
Because it's still a thing, apparently, even though it feels like the hype has died down a bit.
Yeah, well, Meta wants to make sure we don't forget about it. They announced that usage of Horizon Worlds, their metaverse platform, has actually grown fivefold.
5 times. That sounds impressive, but also like a made-up number.
Right. Like 5 times what? What was the starting point? They were pretty vague on the details.
Very convenient, but Even if the numbers are impressive, does it really matter? Like, does anyone actually want to spend their time in the metaverse?
That's what they're trying to figure out, I think. And they're really trying to make it, I don't know, more appealing to the average person, I guess. Like they're integrating, get this 2D apps into Horizon worlds now.
2D apps. So you're
Yeah.
telling me I can strap on a VR headset just to scroll through Facebook in like a virtual void? That's the big metaverse pitch.
Hey, I don't make the rules. But yeah, that's the idea. Apparently, you'll be able to watch YouTube, check your social media feeds, all within their virtual world. It's all about making it feel more familiar, I guess.
Familiar, but with extra steps. I don't know, it still feels like a hard sell. But I will say, those early metaverse avatars were downright terrifying.
Well, absolutely. Those were rough. Like vaguely humanoid, but with dead eyes and creepy movements. Nightmare fuel, honestly.
Right. Thankfully, it seems like they've made some progress on that front.
Yeah, they actually showcased some pretty impressive upgrades to their avatars this year. They're way more realistic now, more expressive, customizable. You can even use AI prompts to generate your avatar, which is kind of cool.
Oh, so you can be a dragon or something.
Well, maybe not a dragon, but you get the idea. The point is they're leaning heavily into AI to make the metaverse experience, less soul-crushing.
Okay, so more AI-powered virtual puppets instead of creepy, soulless avatars. Got it. But seriously, when does it end with all this AI integration? We've got the glasses that could replace our phones, AI generating images of us, AI that can practically hold a conversation. Are we just hurtling towards some kind of hyper-personalized, constantly monitored digital existence?
It's definitely a valid concern, and one that Meta doesn't seem too keen on addressing, at least not publicly. Remember those Ray-Ban Meta glasses? The ones that can already take photos and videos, kind of discreetly?
Oh, yeah, those were controversial from the get-go.
Well, now they've added a new feature that's even more, let's say, privacy pushing. They can remember things for you.
Remember things. What does that even mean?
Basically, you can point the glasses at something, snap a photo, and then set a reminder for it later. So, like, let's say you see a book you want to read. You snap a photo, and then boom, you get a notification later reminding you about it.
So it's like a visual to-do list that you wear on your face.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be useful, maybe. But it also feels like we're just giving up more and more of our privacy for the sake of convenience.
Exactly. And what about the ethical implications of all of this? Like, Zuckerberg basically brushed off creators' concerns about AI using their work without permission.
Oh, you mean when he said that if artists want to get paid for their work being used to train AI, then Meta might just, and I quote, walk away?
Yeah, that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and for good reason. It just highlights the power dynamic here. Meta is building these platforms, these technologies, but they're relying on the content created by, millions of users.
Right. It's a classic case of a tech giant wanting to have its cake and eat it too. They want to use creators' work to train their AI, but they don't want to compensate them fairly for it.
It's a mess, honestly. And it's just one example of the many ethical dilemmas that come along with this kind of technology.
Totally. And I think that's something that's important to remember. For all the cool gadgets and impressive demos, there's some really serious questions that Meta and the tech industry as a whole needs to answer.
Yeah, like where do we draw the line? When does innovation cross over into ethically questionable territory?
Exactly. And it's not just about the technology itself, but also the impact it
Right.
has on, society, on our relationships, on our understanding of, reality itself.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of it all, but we can't lose sight of the bigger picture. It's a lot to wrap our heads around, isn't it? We've gone from glasses that could make our phones obsolete to AI that can chat like a real person and even remember things for us, all in the span of an hour.
It's a lot to process, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And the craziest part is, this is just the tip of the iceberg, really. This is Meta showing us their vision of the future. And it's a future that's completely intertwined with technology.
Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to out-future themselves, like they throw all these ideas at the wall and see what sticks.
It's true. And some of it does seem a bit, I don't know, unfocused. Like they're tackling AR, AI, the metaverse. It's a lot, even for a company with Meta's resources.
Right. It makes you wonder if they're spreading themselves too thin, trying to do too much at once.
I think that's a valid concern because focus is important, especially when you're talking about literally shaping the future of technology.
Totally. And speaking of shaping the future, where do we even fit into all of this? Are we, the users, just along for the ride? Or do we actually have a say in how this all unfolds?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And I think it's one that we need to be asking ourselves more and more these days because it's easy to get swept up in the excitement of all the new gadgets and shiny tech.
Oh, yeah, for sure. New
Mhm.
phone, who dis?
Right. But we can't lose sight of the bigger picture, which is that technology is becoming increasingly integrated into our lives, whether we like it or not.
And not all of it is necessarily good.
Exactly. So we need to be having these conversations about, like, privacy, about ethics, about the power dynamics at play. Because if we don't, then we're basically just giving companies like Meta free rein to shape our future for us.
And that's a little scary, honestly, because as much as I love my gadgets, I'm not quite ready to hand over the reins to, like, an algorithm.
Well, the good news is we still have a choice.
Hmm.
We can choose to be informed, to be engaged, to demand better from the companies that are creating these technologies.
We do have a voice, even if it feels like it gets drowned out sometimes.
Exactly. And the more we use our voices, the more likely it is that companies like Meta will actually listen.
So let's make them listen. Let's demand a future where technology serves humanity, not the other way around. Well, that got deep. But on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into MetaConnect 2024.
It's been quite a ride.
To say the least. From AR glasses to AI avatars, we've covered a lot of ground today, and honestly, I'm still processing it all.
Me too. It's definitely a lot to think about.
It is, but that's the beauty of exploring the bleeding edge of technology, right? There are always more questions than answers.
That's what makes it so fascinating.
Exactly. So until next time, keep those questions coming and keep exploring the future, one technological marvel at a time. Thanks for joining us.